Welcome to It's Personal, Not Just Business, with your host, Michael Fliegelman. In each episode, you'll learn lessons from other successful financial advisors and brokers. You can find this show on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on swanwealth.com. Now here's the host of It's Personal, Not Just Business, Michael Fliegelman.
Hi, welcome. I am really excited today to be talking with an old friend, Ms. Cheryl Canzanella. Cheryl, I've known you probably, I'd say 10, 15 years now, and I can't tell you how happy I am to have you as one of our guests on It's Personal, Not Just Business. You know, my business philosophy is all about relationships. You know, I came up with that tagline as it is the exact opposite of The Godfather. As he said, it's business, not personal. And for me, all business is personal. You do business with people you like. Certainly, I'm not going to choose which newsstand to buy a newspaper with based upon the likability of the owner of the newsstand, but it might have an effect if I go in there every day. And, you know, we're in a people business. We're in a business of, you know, really supporting people. And I'm attracted to those people that are what I would call givers, not takers. And instinctively, we learn and we grow and we know who those people are. And when I met you, I was right that you were a giver. And first, before we get into any of, you know, the questions, just share a little bit about, you know, your journey, your, you know, how you got to where you are, a little bit about your background, so our listeners can understand a little bit more about you, your family, your background, and what brought you here today.
Well, I just want to say thank you, first of all, for having me on. And I feel very blessed to know you and to call you a friend and to have worked with you and, over 10 years. And we've both, like many other people, have been through a lot of challenging times in our lives. So to be able to open up and to be vulnerable during those trying times, I think is important. And one of the best things about having friends, especially from in the industry, I've always kind of grown up in this industry, building my experience in this industry, knowing that people do business with those they know, like, and trust. And that has absolutely come through 1,000 times fold over. And I just feel very blessed to be in an industry where I can call many people I work with friends and have that ability to be able to share. So thank you, Michael, for doing this, and thank you for introducing me to other people that are your friends in the industry, and getting personal with other people on your past podcasts. So, um, been in the financial industry for 25 years. I kind of fell into the business. I didn't know what a stock or bond was when I started. I studied from very basic and scratch. I started as an annuity marketing coordinator. I had no idea what an annuity was. So I worked my way up and learning the business. And actually, interesting enough, I got college career credit for having securities license and insurance licenses in the business. So I worked my way through college while I was working full time. And had a lot of opportunity to get to know this industry by trying different areas and figuring out what I wanted to do. I have to say I didn't just land into sales right away. I tried a couple different areas and found this business has just been very good to me, and I have found areas in which I was able to spend the last 10 years working as a peer of yours with Mass Mutual in brokerage, and having the opportunity, the great opportunity of getting to meet and know hundreds of advisors throughout this industry, and make a lot of great relationships that way. But the last 2 years within the financial industry, I actually changed from the kind of the BD world, broker dealer world, to the mortgage side of the business. And I am in a really a position to bring a unique perspective on how to really connect two subjects that people don't often think about together, which is reverse mortgage and home equity, and tie that into the retirement planning conversation. And it really helps to extend the client conversations but beyond the traditional financial planning that we've been taught over the last 30 years. And it's not an area that I thought I would, ever get into, but I see it's an area that a lot of people are starting to be more open to and understanding how to really look at a holistic approach of planning and incorporate things like home equity, which is oftentimes our largest asset, and really incorporate that into the planning, which oftentimes may lead to utilizing um, things like HECM reverse mortgage in retirement planning, especially for specifically for seniors and those retirees that are looking for income planning. So I feel very blessed to have had 25 years, and I hope to have 25 more years in this business.
Well, it's such a great story. And as I reflect on getting to know you when you were doing the same role as I do now, something tragic happened in your life. And it was like, oh my God. And you had lost your husband, young man, big, strong, tall, like kind of person you would expect to live till 80, 90 years old. And somehow I got communication that he had passed. And I think that that was just such a shock to the system, being in the world of financial planning and insurance. We're all, trained on, how important planning is, but, nobody expects what happened to you to happen to them. And I think that it shapes who you are as a person. And then I watched you grow as you had so much passion to talk to the world about opioid addiction and what happened to your husband. So I'd love to hear your comments about that and share a little bit more about your story if you're willing to share, and what that has done for you and your business, and how you've helped educate the world about this such important issue.
Well, and I know I've thanked you about this personally before, but publicly, I want to thank you because you did call me as soon as you heard, and we had a wonderful conversation, and to have the support of those around me when something like that happens for anyone, I think is important to be able to reach out to those, and to have friends that are willing to touch base and just say, "Are you okay? And is there anything I can do?" And you were certainly one of them. And so thank you. Yes, my husband tragically passed away 7 years ago. I almost 7 years ago. I did not expect, obviously, to become a widow at 38 years old, but there I was. It's interesting being in the financial industry. We plan and prepare years for the unexpected. We plan and prepare for things that we know death is, inevitable, but we don't know when that's going to happen. And here I was at 38, obviously not prepared for it at all. And you mentioned opioids. He passed away due to overdose involving opioids, and so it wasn't something I talked about. I know it came as a surprise to you, and it came to a surprise of many, because this, when you're going through addiction, it's not something that you want to publicly announce. It's all very shameful. And personally, I thought we were going to get over it, and we were going to get him help, and we would just go back to normal, and nobody had to know what we went through. But the reality is that obviously we didn't have that opportunity to get to that point. So it was just something. Here I am helping people with their financial futures, and I could barely keep my head above water myself. And financially, we were going through a hard time, because here I am, making the most money that I've made throughout my career, and it was all going out the window because of addiction, whether or not it was through theft, or having to spend money on getting things fixed, corrected, out of the pawn shop, paying for treatment, just not spending properly in just everyday life, from groceries to takeout food. So money is coming in just as quickly as going out the door. And when he passed, I think I even told you this, but I shared with very few people. I said, I want to be able to speak up about this and share it with people. And the reason was I wanted people to know who he was, not how he left us. And I didn't want this to be what people thought of him. And so I wanted everyone to know what a great person he was. And I didn't know if that was career suicide. I thought, well, the minute I tell everyone, they're all going to judge and no one's going to want to do business with me. But the reality is, I can't tell you how many people I receive phone calls from in our business, in the financial industry, that said, I wish you would have told me sooner. Here's what's going on in my family. Here's what's going on with my clients. Here's what's going on with my best friend's son, whatever the case is. And so many people reached out to me to share their story that I realized, once you make yourself vulnerable to share, not only do you have an opportunity to help those around you, but you also have an opportunity to help others open up to you and share their vulnerabilities. And what I realized is, and especially now, I speak all over. I've even spoken internationally about this very topic on and not only the opioid epidemic, but also the financial burdens, and mainly educating our peers in the financial industry, but just educating everyone and bringing hope to that. And what I realized is, when I go out there and I'll ask my audience, I'll say, hey, does anybody here have the perfect family? And guess how many people have risen their hand?
Nobody.
No one. No, nobody has the perfect family.
Right.
So when you start to open yourself up to vulnerabilities, especially with clients, and they realize that there's no judgment and that there are ways you can help, and that it's important for you to open up about things like addiction or substance use disorder, even with people like your financial advisor, that you can have help and assistance. And that's really all we needed. I mean, I personally was making such cloudy financial decisions, and here I am in the business, and I have tons of resources around me, but I just didn't open up about it, and I didn't share what we were going through. So, um, you know, I just continued to make cloudy financial decisions in a time when I just needed some guidance.
Well, I have to tell you, so many thoughts run through my mind about you as a person and what you've dealt with. I watch a comedy show on Netflix called Loudermilk. It's about a gentleman who runs a group at a church for substance abuse. And one of the people in the show is this young lady who's recovering addicted personality. And she shared with this boy, first boyfriend since she was sober, that she was an addict. And he immediately pushed back and, dropped the relationship. And it reinforced exactly what you said about, shame. There's so much shame in it. And it's so unfortunate, because you are so right. The more you put yourself out there, the more that you share, the more people gravitate to you, support you, and love you. I have 3 very close friends that lost children due to the opioid addiction. I don't think, whether it's opioid addiction or long-term care, you ask people, has this been affecting your life? And I don't think there's anybody that gets out unscathed. Somebody in your life has been impacted by opioid addiction. Somebody in your life has been impacted by long-term care. There are all these different, things that we don't want to talk about, yet when we do, we're so glad that we did. And I know that what it shapes for you is a much more attractive advisor, someone that I want to do business with Because you have the experience. You have a perspective as a reverse mortgage person, as not only a reverse mortgage expert, but a financial planning expert, where you have knowledge about holistic financial planning and insurance and annuities and retirement plans. And you also have life experience that very few of us have. So I know that all of this adds up to you being your best self. And I can't tell you how impressed I am by your resilience as a human being, as how you've bounced back since this has happened. And now, as you had left us at Mass Mutual as a brokerage director, how I've seen how your career has now blossomed in the reverse mortgage world.
Yeah, I feel like you're right. I mean, I think everyone has been touched in a way, whether or not you know someone directly. And we know that there's it doesn't discriminate. Nobody is immune, and this includes clients and your friends and family. But even if you don't, if you're one of the few people that don't know someone directly, and you're lucky enough to not have this going on in your family, or being impacted directly, you're being impacted indirectly. And that's a message that I think people don't realize is, from the top down, the economy, I mean, it is trickling down through our neighborhoods and impacting us in one way or another. And the amount of people that we have right now addicted, and this is just prescription opioids, you've got 2 to 3 million people currently going through substance use disorder with opioids. And then we've got 11.5 million people that are misusing prescription opioids. These are not illegal drugs. These are prescribed, legally prescribed drugs. So 11.5 million people misusing them. So it's very highly likely that you have clients being impacted through this one way or another. They don't have to necessarily go and meet the end like my husband did with overdose, but the impact of just going through misuse and affecting your health, and then with there's 75% of just drug overdoses in general, which over the last couple of years is over 100,000 people a year. And about 75% of them are tied to opioid drugs. So these numbers just continue to skyrocket. And when you talk about the impact from the economy, it is impact, the financial toll in general is impacting, the healthcare industry, the criminal justice system. You've got health related costs for, hospitalizations, the overdoses in general, and just care and upkeeping with medical costs. But criminal justice system, with people being arrested and jails being overcrowded, the court system, and just legal costs. But then just all of that is going to eventually trickle down to small business owners. So it's not just your clients you're working with individually, but businesses are being impacted. 75% of businesses are impacted by the opioid epidemic. 75%. So if you're working with business owners, their workforce is being impacted. Their productivity, their healthcare programs, they're having to rehire people and bring new people on. And that's, if you think blue collar, you'd immediately think that, but also white collar, because they just have more means to cover things up, and they don't have to go through as many people, but they're actively going through within their employees. So there are, the impact is certainly trickling down to us, even if you don't know someone directly.
I don't think anybody's immune to it. I recall I had a couple of surgeries, and coming home from, my first surgery, they gave me all of this, all these opioids, because I had brain surgery. And, I was in pain, but, after like 2 or 3 days, I probably could have stopped. But, you're trained in life to finish your prescription. If I finished that prescription, I could have been very easily addicted, because I have an addictive personality. I enjoy feeling good, and these medications make you feel good when you're in pain, and it covers up the pain. And Like I said, nobody is immune to this risk. I know you've been out there sharing in the financial world at NAFA meetings, industry events, your message about, the effect of opioids. And I just want to congratulate you for being a champion of people. I wonder, when I saw you, get to do a presentation at the NAFA national meeting, I'm saying, you know, as trite as it might sound, well, what's in it for Cheryl? Why is she doing that? What is it that motivates you to tell this story to the world?
Yeah, I think it's mainly because I was quiet for so long, and there are a lot of people like myself who um, don't necessarily know how to have a voice to this. So being able to speak up and share this has given me it's brought a lot of comfort to me, but knowing that I could help just one person has made it all worthwhile. And knowing that I could be a voice for those that do not have a voice and will continue to keep this as quiet as possible is so important because I've been there. And I know that I was myself uneducated. So as I bring awareness and education to those around me, we can help. We can help so many. And right now, that people need our help. And I think, especially from the financial industry, educating my peers who, we have our industry advisors, planners, they have hundreds of clients that they work with. So it's very likely that they've been impacted at some point. And the more education that they have, the more that they can help educate their clients on why clients should be able to talk to them about it and how to, the biggest thing is helping them understand not only just seeing red flags, but how do you have the conversation with someone who doesn't want to talk to you about it? And how do you have the conversation and bring it up with someone who, is in denial themselves? So being able to add this as part of the typical financial planning process, when you're doing annual reviews, when you're in the fact finding process and sitting down with the client for the first time, maybe we check a box and talk about addiction, but how far are you taking that with asking the right questions to uncover the real what's really going on? And I think by being able to be active with sharing my story helps put this into real life, that it helps people understand that this is not just impacting those out on the streets that are, begging for money or living on the streets. This is impacting everyone. And here I am standing in a suit, a professional, well educated, well experienced in the industry. And yes, it impacted me. So being able to share my story with people to help make this more real is important.
It's huge. It's tremendous. It's admirable, and it's really very special because I don't think anybody in the world is doing this, like this kind of outreach that I've seen you do over the last, I guess, 3 or 4 years now, maybe even longer. It's been, when did he pass?
Well, he passed away just over 6 years ago, and I spoke on TV. I spoke on a local TV commercial, and it wasn't even a commercial. They interviewed me, and it was 2 weeks after he passed. And that
Wow.
was my first taste at being able to, or my first experience of being able to share his story publicly and say it out loud officially.
And that created a lot of ripples to what you do now, because I guess it's really become part of your DNA, is this passion to communicate something that most people are hiding. As I indicated, like the girl in this TV show, she was embarrassed, but she was brave enough to tell the boy on the date, that she is not going to drink, that she's sober, and she had an addiction problem. And it was so interesting. I reflect on it because I watched that show last night. It's a comedy, but it's a very serious subject matter. and I see where the shame comes in. Like, it could have been just as easy for her to, hide from it and not tell him. And that's unfortunate because you don't know how someone's going to react when you are vulnerable. But to your credit, you have created a voice for those who need a voice. And I think what it does from my perspective is makes you that much more of a attractive person to send business to. So the people that normally listen to our podcasts are people that are in the financial service business. And I just want to say that, when you have the perspective of being in a business and then you leave that business to go to a related field, you become that much better of an advocate for your clients because you see the perspective of a different business that is important and related. And I know I had your colleague on a couple of weeks ago, and we really did, he's so passionate about how much equity is sitting in people's retirement, but not being used because their home equity is not something that people normally talk about when they think about retirement planning, just like we don't normally talk about opioid addiction. But having these kind of conversations open up a whole world to you. And I can't think of a better person to work with in the reverse mortgage area than you and your colleague and Movement Mortgage. Can you share about how people would contact you, Cheryl, a little bit about your company, maybe your website? So if anybody wants to reach out to you, whether it's to learn more about reverse mortgages or to pick your brain about your experience because they're going through something similar, share with everybody how they would reach out and contact you.
Absolutely. So, it's easy to contact me. It's just my first name and my last name. I have a website, CherylCanzanella.com. And for the reverse side, just my first name, Canzanella, Cheryl.Canzanella at movement.com. And movement.com is the main website. I feel very blessed to have the background in the financial industry to see how these two worlds connect and how important it is. We've got people right now who are retiring and they may not have enough money that to retire off of, and we can help them with that. And that's an easy place to really find clients that you're working with if they've already spent down their assets and now we're looking at that home as a last resort. We can help those people all day long, but what we really want to do is help those that don't need a reverse mortgage. And that's where the true planning comes in. And that's where a lot of us as financial advisors and being in this business, that's where we get really excited, is when we're able to help clients really plan and leverage their dollar to the furthest. So those are the clients that we love working with, those that don't need us. So in a sense, but those are the clients that we can help with creating that cash flow in retirement, or helping with tax strategies. We help with tax strategies for those that have their home paid off, and we have tax strategies to help with those that are still making a mortgage on their home. But ultimately, I find so much joy in being able to help the advisors working within their planning software to show the probabilities of their clients actually meeting their retirement goals and maintaining their lifestyle, those numbers increasing just by adding in another strategy and another product into the portfolio. I'm happy to help in any of those areas, but reaching out on the opioids and your clients, this is a story that you can share, and I can help with resources. I can help with creating that message for you, so you can educate your clients on reasons why they need to talk with you and speak with you about what's going on personally. So I can help with those resources as well as education in general. But you had mentioned, seniors earlier, and and I think right now there's so much need to help seniors, and I have the ability to help not only on the reverse side, but also with opioids, because seniors are also going through addiction themselves. There's also a lot of financial fraud going on within your clients and that are seniors. They are being stolen from, and typically financial fraud happens from within with people we know personally. So a lot of addiction is really a driving force to a lot of the financial fraud that is being committed to our seniors. So if you're working with retirees, which many of us are, a lot of seniors, their medication could be stolen from them and they're not getting what they need, or they could have money being stolen. They could be manipulated into giving away their assets or their home, or giving away so much that they're now having to lose their home. So our seniors are vulnerable to this themselves, and so I am more than happy to help educate and help you with having those conversations.
Yeah, you just created another level of awareness for me. I understand about, how, sometimes loved ones take advantage of their parents or grandparents, etc., but didn't really play it out in my mind about how they're being manipulated because somebody has a drug addiction. And it's remarkable. It really is an interesting time we live in, and having your perspective there, I think, is just a tremendous, tremendous asset. And your willingness to give and share ideas and networks of support for these people are wonderful. I think the combination of what you bring to the table is a very, very impressive combination of skills and experiences that make me feel very comfortable in sending you anybody, whether it's to talk about opioid addiction and your experiences and support, or helping them get a reverse mortgage when they don't even need it. A lot of times I think people think that that's like the last resort, but in essence, it's just a part of your portfolio of assets. But it's usually something that people don't think they can access and use. So you make it come alive through a reverse mortgage. You make it come alive through your willingness to help and support. Before we conclude, Cheryl, just wanted to ask you if you have anything else you want to share with the audience, anything that you think could be helpful.
Yeah, two things. One, when you think about substance use disorder, there may only be one person going through addiction, but it's typically the entire family that suffers. So it's not that you're looking for your clients to be going through addiction themselves, which they might, but it's also just knowing that the family is also suffering. And so looking for signs that are things like grand families, where parents or grandparents are now taking care of grandkids and raising grandkids, and talk about trying to plan for for their retirement, while now they've got new added expenses of raising a new child, another their grandchild. They're the sandwich generation, where you've got our clients that are taking care of their parents, as well as kids that can't get out on their own because they're going through addiction or going through other substance use disorder. So just be aware that it is impacting the entire family. And then number two, I would say the biggest thing I would like you to remember, if anything, from this entire time that we've had together today, would be that these are not bad people doing bad things. They're typically sick people just trying to get better. Doesn't make excuses for doing bad things, but they are, they are not themselves, and they have been stripped and robbed of their true inner soul and person, and have typically become a skeleton of themselves when they're going through true active addiction. And if they're lucky enough to get through active addiction and go into where they are sober, like you were saying with your example, just remember it's a long road. And financially, it's going to take a long time it's going to take a lot of investment and cost to get built back up. So to be patient, and to know that this is all a process, and you could actually help them get through all of this financially without hopefully, liquidating too many assets and wiping out a portfolio that has been, years in the making of trying to build. So I would say those are the last two things.
Well, you're a wealth of valuable information. You've created a greater awareness for me. A couple of thoughts come to mind, and I think that part of, as an advisor, we use a lot of tools to ask questions, and part of those fact finders should be some way to weave that kind of question about, you know, family health. We could call it the family health section of a questionnaire, that someone like you could delicately weave in some questions to ask, so that it is not overlooked by a financial advisor, because sometimes they go through a financial plan and they say, all right, this is how much money comes in. These are our expenses. How come we're not saving a lot of money? Where does it go? It goes sometimes into that black hole of addiction. So you've created tremendous awareness for me, and I'm sure for many of the listeners out there, that this is something that needs to be part of their planning process. And for anybody who is looking for someone to partner with on reverse mortgages and how to utilize this untapped asset, which is a huge part of people's retirement portfolio, the equity in their home, I know that Cheryl and her team are the best at what they do in educating people, even if they don't need it, but why they should consider tapping that resource and utilizing a reverse mortgage as part of their overall financial and retirement plan. I want to thank you, Cheryl, from the bottom of my heart. You're a sweet, kind person, and only good things for you and your new baby and your new family. Congratulations. And congratulations on your willingness to just put yourself out there and do for people without any expectation of something coming back to you. You truly are a giver, and it's a privilege to have gotten to know you over the years. Thank you so much for joining
Thank
and
you.
being on. It's personal, not just business. Thank you.
You've been tuning into It's Personal, Not Just Business, with your host, Michael Fliegelman. Each episode features role models and lessons from other successful financial advisors and brokers. Thank you for your positive feedback, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others.